Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into some really interesting material from Stu Friedman's book, Total Leadership. We've got the key parts, we spent some time with them, and we're ready to unpack what's genuinely useful here. If you've ever felt like your life is just these separate boxes, work, home, community, yourself, and you're just constantly juggling, trying not to drop anything, well, this deep dive is definitely for you. We're looking at how connecting those isn't just about feeling less stressed. It's actually about becoming a more effective leader everywhere.
That's exactly right. Our mission here is to pull out the absolute core ideas and, importantly, the practical methods Friedman lays out. We want to help you see how really integrating your whole life can lead to, well, not just feeling better, but actually higher performance.
Yeah.
And, deeper fulfillment across all those vital parts of your world.
Right. And the big idea, the real breakthrough concept here is what Friedman calls four-way wins. It sort of flips the old idea that success in one area, like your career, means you have to sacrifice somewhere else, like family. The insight is finding ways they can actually feed each other, reinforce each other. So we're going to explore what that really looks like and, crucially, how you can start building those wins yourself.
Okay, let's unpack this concept. So total leadership, at its core, it's a kind of fusion. It blends two fields we usually look at separately. Leadership studies, the traditional stuff, and this whole idea of integrating your personal life. What makes Friedman's approach feel fresh is this focus on building leadership capacity from the viewpoint of the whole person.
And those four-way wins you mentioned, that's the goal, right? The outcome. It means getting results that matter not just for work, but also for home, for community, and this is key, for yourself, your mind, body, spirit. The framework sees these as interdependent, a system, not silos.
Yeah, and that's a really crucial difference from how we often talk about work-life balance. Balance usually suggests, well, a zero-sum game, doesn't it? More time here means less time there. You have to make trade-offs. Total leadership pushes you to actively look for mutual gain, for ways that improving one area can actually benefit the others. Leverage, basically.
And who's it for? The book's really clear on this. Pretty much anyone, any level, any stage. Student, CEO, salesperson, stay-at-home parent, running the PTA. It doesn't really matter. You might connect with this, especially if you feel like you're succeeding in one place, but maybe, I don't know, feeling empty or underperforming elsewhere. Or if you know you've got strengths you just aren't using across different parts of your life, or honestly, if you just feel constantly pulled apart.
What's really interesting, too, is the timing. I mean, the book came out a while ago before some pretty huge global shifts, but the ideas, they feel even more relevant now, somehow.
Oh, totally. Think about it. The Great Recession, the, explosion of digital connectivity being on all the time, more focus on climate change, big shifts in gender roles and work dynamics. And remember that whole thing about younger generations prioritizing social impact? Like, Teach for America being harder to get into than Goldman Sachs for a bit.
Exactly. And just that universal feeling so many people have of being completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And, well, that's precisely why these ideas hit home today. All those changes have created this real hunger for useful knowledge. People want ways to not just cope, but to actually perform better and feel fulfilled across their whole complex lives. This approach speaks right to that need.
And you see the traction it's gotten. The source mentions, it's global, translated widely, this huge online course with 50,000 students, plus real implementation in big places.
Yeah.
United Health, Target, the U.S. Army, Google, Deloitte. It's obviously hitting a nerve.
So, okay, how do you actually do this? The book frames the total leadership process as, well, a journey, a path of personal growth, and, this is important, experimentation. It involves getting really clear on what matters to you, truly respecting the interconnectedness of your life and relationships, and then taking deliberate action to make change happen.
And this journey is built on three core pillars, right? The book calls them being real, that's about authenticity, being whole, focusing on integrity, and being innovative, which is about creativity.
Exactly. And they build on each other quite logically. Being real, authenticity, that's your foundation. Getting grounded in what truly matters to you. Then being whole, integrity helps you see the bigger picture, aligned with the key people in your life. And finally, being innovative, creativity, that's where you take all that insight and actually design experiments to create those four-way wins we talked about.
Okay, let's dig into that first one then. Being real. Sounds straightforward, acting with authenticity, but it seems like it starts with some deep reflection on what's important to you personally.
Right. The initial steps are these powerful reflection exercises.
Yeah.
You actually start by stating your goals for even engaging with this stuff. Like, What do you hope to get out of it? Writing that down sets a baseline. Then you tell your leadership story. This means looking back at defining moments, times your values were really tested, where you learned something critical about yourself as a leader. It brings clarity.
Yeah, I remember the book using the Steve Jobs example. Getting fired from Apple felt like a disaster, but it turned out to be this pivotal moment that, well, freed him up creatively.
Yeah.
It's seeing those moments as lessons, not just events.
Precisely. Using your past to understand who you are now. The next step is writing your leadership vision. And this isn't just like a fantasy. It's creating a compelling image of an achievable future. It needs to be rooted in your past experiences, deal with your present reality, and genuinely reflect who you are and what you stand for.
The book points to Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, right?
Well-
As that kind of vivid, achievable vision grounded in reality that inspired action. So you're encouraged to write that future story for yourself.
Exactly. And then identifying your core values. What principles really guide you? What do you hold most dear? The book even lists things like honesty, respect, growth, helping others just as a starting point to help you articulate your own core values.
Okay, so after all that reflecting, the key is connecting it back to now. How does that vision, those values, compare to your actual life today?
And there are tools for that assessment. The four-way attention chart is one. It's pretty simple but powerful. You look at the 4 domains: work, home, community, self, and estimate, using percentages, how important each is to you versus how much attention you actually give it.
Seeing those numbers next to each other can be quite revealing, I imagine.
Definitely. And then there's the 4 circles exercise. This helps you visualize the overlap, or sometimes the lack of it, between those domains. You literally draw circles for each and think about where they connect, where they clash, and what it might take to bring them into, well, greater harmony. And here's where it gets really fascinating. A core insight from the research behind the book. While managing your time is obviously important, the biggest source of stress and dissatisfaction often isn't the lack of time itself. It's psychological interference.
Oh, I know that feeling. Being physically present, like playing with your kids, but your mind is a million miles away worrying about work emails.
Exactly. Body here, mind somewhere else entirely. And the implication is huge. Managing those boundaries, both physical and psychological, that takes real leadership skill. And being real, clarifying importance, seeing where your attention really goes, understanding your 4 circles, that's the necessary first step to developing that skill.
The book gives examples like Carrie, who had career success but felt empty, or Victor, whose vision showed him non-work stuff was crucial, or Roxanne realizing her job didn't define her. They all started by getting real.
Which leads perfectly into the second pillar, being whole. This is about living a life where the parts fit together coherently, strongly. Integrity here isn't just honesty. It's about the strength of a well-designed system. The book uses falling water, the Frank Lloyd Wright house, as an analogy for that kind of structural integrity.
Okay, so how do you actually build that kind of integration in your life? It sounds complex.
Well, the approach involves, first, recognizing and respecting all the different parts of your life. Then, setting and maintaining productive boundaries between them. And crucially, finding ways to leverage resources like your skills, your energy, your connections across those different domains. A key step here is identifying your key stakeholders. These are the people who have a real stake in your future, in your life working well in each domain: work, home, community, and don't forget self. You are your own most important stakeholder.
Right, you have to include yourself, and then you map expectations. First, what you think they expect from you. Listing that for each key person and rating, maybe 1 to 10, how well you think you're meeting those expectations now.
And then you flip it. What do you expect of them? What do you need support, understanding, maybe collaboration to reach your goals and live a more integrated life? And again, rate how well they're currently meeting your needs.
Analyzing those maps must reveal a lot. Where things align, where they conflict. You start seeing your life as that interconnected web. The book mentions Victor being surprised by compatible expectations he hadn't noticed, and Jenna realizing how much she and her team relied on each other.
Yeah, and when you find mismatches, the framework suggests ways forward. Maybe clarifying what's really needed, or sometimes it's about accepting limitations and consciously setting boundaries if certain expectations just don't fit your vision. The book talks about patterns too, like an angry pattern of clashing expectations versus an expansive one where needs are met.
Technology comes into play here too, right? That 2047 connection blurring lines. It takes skill to use media for flexibility without feeling, well, trapped by it. Experimenting with how you use tech is part of being whole.
Which brings us to probably the most crucial step for being whole: stakeholder dialogues. The book really emphasizes these conversations. They're vital for checking your assumptions about expectations, building trust, and actually getting the support you need. And these aren't just casual chats. They need some preparation, a plan.
Okay, but let's be honest. Talking about this stuff with certain people can feel intimidating. Doesn't the book have a term for that?
It does, the dreaded stakeholder. That person you feel nervous talking to about your life, your future plans, maybe because you think they have power over you or might react badly. But here's the encouraging finding the book highlights. Those conversations, the ones with the dreaded stakeholders, they usually go much, much better than people anticipate.
Really? Why?
Because you prepare.
Yeah.
You go in with a spirit of genuine inquiry, wanting to understand their side. And you focus on finding common ground, a shared future. Lim's positive talk with his boss is a great example they give.
So these talks confirm things, show you the web of relationships, help find shared interests, and give you that outside-in view. Like Andre, who was nervous talking to his wife Marta, but gained so much from it.
Exactly. Ultimately, being whole, acting with integrity, means respecting stakeholders, working creatively to align expectations, and building trust by genuinely serving others' interests as you pursue your integrated life.
Okay, so we've done the reflection with being real, connected with key people through being whole. Now it's time for action, right? Pillar 3, being innovative. This is about designing and running smart experiments for those 4-way wins.
That's it. And a total leadership experiment isn't just any change. It's defined as a planned action, something achievable, specifically designed to make life demonstrably better, measurably better in all 4 domains. The main action might be in one domain, say work, but you design it so it has positive ripple effects. Or it might involve activities across several domains at once.
And the book gives examples of types of experiments, right? Like experimenting with where or when you work, how you use your company's resources, involving stakeholders directly, managing boundaries better, especially with tech, or even finding ways to combine tasks, like doing something for community that also builds work skills.
Exactly. The whole point of these experiments is to learn, to gain knowledge about what actually works for you to create that mutual value. They also help mobilize support because you involve others. It's learning by doing. The guidelines are pretty straightforward. Aim for changes that make it easier to get things done. Involve your workplace if it makes sense. Definitely enlist your stakeholders. And be smart about boundaries and media use.
Okay, but if you brainstorm a bunch of ideas, how do you pick which experiments to actually try?
Good question. The suggestion is to narrow it down to maybe the 3 most promising ones. You weigh them based on things like potential return on investment across all 4 areas, the cost of not doing it, whether it builds useful skills, if it sounds genuinely interesting or fun, and critically, how well it aligns with your vision. And a key point, an experiment that fails isn't a failure. It's just valuable data. You learned something important.
The examples from participants really bring this to life, like Jenna, experimenting with delegation and shifting her schedule. It wasn't just about work productivity. It gave her time for her father and for her own walks. A clear 4-way win. Work, home, community, caring for family, self.
Right. And Andre, remember him. His experiments included researching a future business with his wife that's future career and home linked, using tech better for his current job that's work, and taking swimming lessons with his daughter, family, and self. He actively wove domains together.
Or Roxanne, changing passive weekend time with her kids to engaging activities. Better family time, sure, but it also eased weekday pressure and improved her work focus because she felt less guilty or rushed.
Ismail restructuring his role using tech for better boundaries that freed up energy for other domains.
And Lim starting the ultimate Frisbee club with his sons, that hit everything. Physical health, self, family time, home, community building, and he learned about influence, work application.
Yeah, and Sally Garcia implementing technology at her plant. It improved work efficiency, sure, but it also freed up employees' time. They could coach, volunteer. That boosted their well-being, and guess what? Improved morale and performance back at work. A fantastic ripple effect.
Even the person who volunteered for Race for the Cure and unexpectedly improved their relationship with their boss by involving the boss's wife, it shows how wins can pop up in surprising places.
And to track all this, the book introduces the scorecard. For each experiment, you define specific, meaningful, moderately challenging goals for each of the 4 domains. And you track progress using metrics.
Metrics could be objective, like customer ratings or volunteer hours, or subjective, your energy level or stress. Right. The point is defining what success looks like for that experiment in all areas.
Exactly. Now, designing is one thing. What stops people from actually doing these experiments? The book points to common culprits. Fear of trying, of hearing no, of looking uncommitted, guilt feeling selfish for focusing on non-work stuff, and sometimes just, well, lack of imagination, not realizing other ways are possible.
So how do you overcome that inertia, that fear?
It starts with the right mindset, believing in your idea's value and helping others see the benefits for them. It takes courage, purpose, smart risks, and adaptability. And the small wins idea is key breaking change into smaller, measurable steps feels less overwhelming and builds momentum. The book also talks about being artfully political. Now, this isn't manipulation, it's enlightened self-interest. It's understanding that you need support, so you frame your initiatives to show how they help others achieve their goals too. You have to overcome that moral block, worrying about seeming manipulative, and the rational block, giving up if people don't immediately agree. Being open about your own goals actually builds trust. Victor learned that when he faced resistance. Sharing credit generously is also huge for building trust.
Building on that support, there's the idea of inducing reciprocity, cultivating your network by making sure your experiments also benefit others. Helping them now builds goodwill and support for you later. It's that give and get dynamic.
Yeah, and it's not just about your close ties. The book suggests building open networks, connecting people who don't already know each other. Filling those structural holes builds your social capital, your reputation as a valuable connector in the trust market. Delegation, like Jenna and Ismail did, is also a way to build trust and help others grow.
So as you're doing these experiments, you're thinking about how they contribute beyond just your immediate needs, making a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It ties back to authenticity, integrity. Great leaders, the book argues, are fueled by purpose, authenticity, and their ability to contribute and connect, integrity. Connecting with community adds meaning and helps sustain the effort long term. So after you've run experiments for, say, 6 or 8 weeks, the book stresses reflecting again. Review your scorecards, your metrics, what worked, what didn't, what did you learn?
Then you loop back to the beginning, right? Reread your vision, your values. Have they shifted or just become clearer? Redo the 4-way attention chart, the 4 circles. What's changed in your satisfaction, your focus?
Yeah, and a key finding mentioned is that often the vision and values don't radically change, but people's awareness and conviction grow stronger. Victor realized his vision wasn't about leaving his job, but changing how he worked. Roxanne stopped seeing personal life as a nice-to-have and saw it as essential.
So what are the overall lessons people tend to take away? The big picture.
The book boils it down by pillar. Authenticity leads to feeling more purposeful, genuine, grounded. Clarity builds commitment in you and inspires others. Integrity brings connection, support, resilience. It reinforces Victor's point. It's not about trade-offs, but synergy. Building a broad network, like Lynn did, provides unexpected solutions. And listening to stakeholders like Roxanne found often reveals more flexibility than you think. And creativity fosters curiosity, engagement, optimism. Experimenting leads to ongoing discovery. Carrie's advice was key here. Experiments should align with or move you towards your vision.
So through this process, you genuinely start to shift how you see yourself as a leader, not just at work, but across your whole life.
And it's vital to see total leadership as ongoing, a continuous practice. It's not a one-and-done thing. It's a cycle of learning, experimenting, reflecting, adjusting as life changes.
The book also highlights telling your story as really important, right? For connection and influence.
Absolutely. Effective leaders connect emotionally, sharing authentic stories about your experiments, struggles, lessons learned that link your experience to others' needs and hopes. That's powerful. It builds support and teaches others. The book even outlines elements of a good leadership story, drawing on past lessons, emotional connection, passion, showing struggle, vivid examples, and a clear takeaway message. There's a lovely analogy used. Cultivating the garden. You're the farmer. Ideas are seeds. Reflection is tilling the soil. Support is nourishment. Prioritizing is pruning. Experiments are cultivation.
The goal being a garden that's sustainable, not draining, and sustaining, meaning enriching. It takes effort, persistence, but leads to stronger conviction about what truly matters.
And because it can be challenging, the book highlights the value of coaching. Having someone support you, hold you accountable, give feedback, encourage smart risks, it helps overcome inertia and anxiety, and is often presented as mutually beneficial. Being a coach develops your leadership skills too.
How does that coaching work in this model?
Well, coaches help you through the exercises, offer insights, maybe gently challenge defensiveness. The act of coaching someone else really sharpens your own skills. The suggestion is often to form small coaching groups, maybe triads, rotating roles. There are even do's and don'ts. Listen actively, ask good questions, care about their success, avoid judgment.
And can this scale? Can whole organizations use these ideas?
Definitely. The book makes a clear case for applying total leadership organizationally. It offers a framework for positive change that links business goals with quality of life improvements. The business case is mutual gain for everyone: employees, families, owners, customers, community. It's less about top-down HR policy changes and more about fostering a culture of small, data-driven experiments for four-way wins. Having credible internal stories, like that four-way wins pilot at the investment bank, is key. So to sum it all up, Total Leadership really offers this powerful method for actively pursuing those four-way wins. It's about consciously practicing authenticity, integrity, and creativity across your whole life. It's about becoming a leader who mobilizes people, including yourself, toward valued goals that span your entire world.
So you've just taken a deep dive into these core ideas, the process of self-discovery, strengthening relationships, and designing those practical experiments for real change. And maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. If becoming a more whole, more real, more innovative leader creates value not just for you, but for everyone around you, family, colleagues, community, what exciting opportunities to experiment are you ready to unlock in your life right now? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.